Do you ever find yourself just sort of hiding out away from everything? That's what I'm doing right now. This seems to be the only relatively clean room in the downstairs at the moment. We're doing so much stuff right now that the house gets so dirty so quickly with people going in and out constantly. We've got food, we've got laundry, we've got preservation stuff, the animals, we've got homeschool going on. So it's just chaotic. And on top of that, the kids are back in sports now and our homeschool co-op has started up. So it is just really, really crazy around here. So I'm taking a break with a cup of coffee. But I wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that we have been doing and preserving. We're really into the knee-deep preserving at this time. No longer the pickles and the jams. We're doing lots of tomatoes, and I ended up bringing in almost 100 pounds of cherries a few weeks ago and got those all processed, and actually ended up getting those from Azure Standard. And one of the gals at the pickup said to me, "What are you going to do with all those cherries?" And I said, "Well, if the end of the world comes, I think I might like a cherry pie." So anyways, yeah, we're just trying to keep our spirits up here because the work is intense. The heat is intense. Later this week, we're going to actually hit, gosh, close to 100. I think we're forecasted for about 98 or 99, which is really hot. We've not seen that temperature yet this year. So it's crazy. Yeah, but everything's moving along. Time's going. The garden is still producing crazily, and we've been taking a lot of stuff out, prepping for fall. I've got a lot of my starts that I'm starting to harden off. So there's just, man, I mean, anything that you could imagine that's going on is going on here. So, but I wanted to give you guys a quick peek into what some of that, really heavy preserving looks like for us. So I hope y'all enjoy. So some of the things that we have coming in from the garden right now are tons of peppers. We have a good amount of tomatoes. Unfortunately, 100 tomato plants has not given me the amount of tomatoes that I thought that it would. I have been able to successfully can enough salsa for the year, which is what you're seeing here. But as far as marinara sauces, man, I have probably only gotten about 20 quarts of marinara sauce, so that's a big letdown. But I'll know for next year that I need to plant probably 200 or 300 plants instead of just 100. But you can see here that I am just preparing some jalapenos. I'm wearing gloves for this. Always make sure that you do this because these jalapenos burn. So basically what I do is I prep all of the ingredients. We've got garlic, jalapenos, tomatoes, and onion. And what I do is I slice all those up, I get them prepped, and then I will put them in the oven and roast them all. And that really just concentrates the flavors and makes it really delicious. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking off some of those roasted skins off of the tomatoes just because I don't want that to overpower the salsa. And because I'm not pureeing this completely, I don't want those kind of hard pieces of skin in there. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to get all of these in a food processor. When I have made salsa in the past, it is so time intensive. But this year I'm doing a new recipe. It's called, I think it's a tomato lime salsa, and it is just really easy. After roasting all these veggies, I'm just going to throw it in my food processor. And then I'm just going to set it on pulse until I see the consistency that I want. And that's it. And then I'm just gonna throw it in a pan, gonna add my other ingredients, heat it up, and let it thicken just slightly. And then I'll be ready to jar it. But I tell you what, guys, if you get the opportunity to make a salsa and roast everything first, it just really makes those flavors come alive. And also, if you're using lime juice I feel like is such a key ingredient in salsa. It just really gives it that authentic flavor. So I encourage y'all to try that. The recipe that I am using is from a book called Foolproof Preserving. And I found actually a lot of really good recipes in there. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that. So next on my list was to process 80 pounds of tomatoes that I brought in from the garden. I did end up roasting these as well because I really liked that flavor in the salsa. So I roasted those as well, and now I'm using a sauce maker, and what that's going to do is it basically separates the pulp and the juice from the skins and the seeds. When you can, they don't want you canning with the skins because they say that there's a higher bacterial content on that. And then some people say that the seeds can actually make the sauce bitter, but you know, I mean, you can decide to follow these rules or not. It's really just up to you. It's your kitchen and you kind of get to decide that. So, and here I am putting in some of those roasted tomatoes. They do say to make sure that you add all of the juice of the tomatoes if you are gonna roast them prior, just because that helps with the acidity level. But for me, I'm actually gonna end up pressure canning these, so that is not a huge deal for me. From 80 pounds of tomatoes, you won't believe it, I only got 10 quarts of marinara sauce. So pretty disappointing for all of that work. But when we eat it, I am sure that we will enjoy it thoroughly. On this same day, I needed to process some grapes. We are getting a huge amount of grapes from our grapevines that we planted around our chicken coops. It was really unexpected. I never really imagined that these things would produce, but they are giving us a ton of grapes this year. So I have this cool piece of equipment here. It's called a steam juicer, and it's gonna make really quick work of these grapes for me. So this particular type of grape is called a catawba grape, and it's a red grape. It does have seeds, so they're not as easy to eat as grapes that you would buy from the grocery store, but they are delicious. I'm actually surprised at how sweet these grapes really are. So to preserve these, we're gonna do two different things. We're going to steam juice them to get all of the juice out of them. And I will either do two things with that juice. I will either can it for us to drink just as is, maybe with a little bit of sugar if I find that it's not sweet enough, or I will can it so that in the future I can make some grape jelly with it. So I'll just add sugar and some pectin and get that to thicken up for grape jelly. My oldest son loves peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so that's going to be a great way to preserve these. So all I'm doing here is just rinsing off the grapes. I did let them sit prior to this just to make sure if there were any little bugs on them, that those bugs will crawl off and kind of, you know, go out, so that I'm not steam juicing stink bugs or anything. But right now I'm just rinsing them, and I'm going to put them in the steam juicer. You can throw them in there with the grapes, the stem, and all. It does not matter. So that makes pretty quick work out of this process. Once these are all in my colander here, I'm gonna move that over to the stove and put it on top of the rest of the steam juicer. And basically, this steam juicer has three different compartments. The bottom part holds the water, the middle part is what's going to collect the juice, and then the top part are where you would put your grapes or really any other fruit that you wanted to juice. And in about an hour or so, we will have a bunch of juice that we just need to put into jars and then process. And so it's a really quick, easy process to get grape juice from these. So even though we are bringing in a ton of food right now, As Your Standard was having a sale on organic cherries, and so I made the executive decision to bring in almost 100 pounds of cherries this year because I was not overwhelmed enough. And you can see I have two helpers here, and they are pitting my cherries one by one. We had ordered a cherry pitter that goes much faster than this, but we only had this one individual one at the time, and so it took quite a process to get them done. We had cherry juice all over the place by the time that they were done, and it looked like a crime scene in my house. So this is definitely not a clean process to process cherries. But what we're gonna end up doing with these is we're going to make cherry pie filling. My oldest son wanted cherry pie filling, and when I went to the store to buy that, it was $5 a can, and I would use 2 of those cans to make 1 pie. So I thought, well, you know, with the sale at Azure, I can do it cheaper than that. So we're gonna go ahead and can these up for pie filling. We're also going to just can some in a simple syrup, and that actually was really delicious. You can use that to top ice cream or pancakes. And then I found a fantastic recipe that I also made. It's called brandied cherries. Now typically when you're adding in a liquor to fruit, they're typically telling you to add in like 1 tablespoon of liquor for a pint jar. But for this particular recipe, it actually has you add in 1 3/4 cup of brandy for about 6 pint jars full of cherries. And so it is fantastically delicious. What I actually like to do with those brandied cherries is just simply put some ice in a cup and pour the syrup over it. So you basically make a simple syrup, you put the cherries in it, warm them up, and then you take it off of the heat, add in your brandy, and then you go ahead and water bath can that to preserve it. So it is absolutely delicious. I highly recommend that you guys try that recipe. But we ended up with a ton of cherries. And with the pits, we actually ended up making cherry pit vinegar with apple cider vinegar, and that was delicious too. So we were really excited to do all of the cherries this year. Well, hey guys, I hope you all enjoyed that video. We are headed to baseball practice and softball practice at different times, at different fields. So that's where we're gonna be. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.